Imagine you are 70 years old. The wear and tear of an active life have taken its toll upon your body. Now, you need a knee replacement just so you can walk without a limp. You go into the doctor and they give you the knee replacement, but 10 years down the line, you need another knee replacement just because that one failed. Now imagine this time, when you went in for that knee replacement, it could send real-time information about your knee right back to monitors so that doctors can watch over you. This artificial knee can even heal itself if it fails. This is the world that engineers are creating. Smart bioimplants are changing these people's worlds forever. Some of them wouldn't even be alive without the technology that has been created. With the help of these new implants, friends get to celebrate another birthday with a loved one. Smart bioimplants are giving people second chances at life, and even a better one than they had before. Let's take a look at how. Meet the standard modern American family. Although it may not look like it, many of them have smart implants to fit their unique needs. The father has a smart shoulder prosthesis, a total shoulder replacement with a sensor that detects and reports impact and stresses on the arm from playing with his kids. The grandfather has a smart pacemaker, allowing him to monitor his blood temperature, breathing, and activity level. The pacemaker can then adjust for changing conditions or even alert others of problems. And the child has a responsive neurostimulator, a brain implant capable of sensing unusual brain signals and sending out electrical impulses to prevent epileptic seizures. These are but a few examples of how smart bioimplants monitor and respond to stimuli in a unique way to help people live a happy, healthy life. To learn more about this impressive new technology, we turn to graduate researcher Graham Parkinson. So what makes an implanted material smart exactly?
Smart materials are an interdisciplinary field of science and engineering. They require excellent use of chemistry, physics, and biology, mathematics as well, in order to make materials that better serve society and better serve the environment. Some examples of these could be materials that repair themselves when they break, more fuel-efficient vehicles like car and airplanes, and bioimplants that are much more like our own human tissue.
Very interesting. Are there certain requirements for an implanted material to be considered smart?
A smart implant would be a material that would be able to integrate with the body while still collecting information and either using that information to make adjustments internally or communicating that information externally. Over time, this device might even be able to adapt to the environment as it changes within the body.
So how do you measure the intelligence of a smart bioimplant then?
I generally would classify the IQ of a smart implant by the ability it has to integrate into the body or wherever it's being placed. Also, its ability to adapt to a changing environment and the vast variety of information that I could get from this device would definitely make it qualify as being a little bit smarter.
That's understandable. Do you have any examples of smart biomaterials for our viewers at home?
All manner of biomaterials are used. One material that's used a lot is titanium, which would be a metal that's implanted into the body because the body is able to accept that. Polymers are also frequently used, including polyethylene glycol, polyether ether ketone, or praline, which is typically used to coat materials that wouldn't really be accepted by the body. Overall, any kind of material that you'd find in your body is a good candidate for a replacement, but some of those materials aren't easily available to us, so we have to make synthetic analogs.
Now you might be wondering, why use smart bioimplants? Shouldn't the added cost and complexity of these new implants outweigh the benefits? That is not the case. Not only do smart bioimplants offer better care, but the added information that doctors can see allows them to better monitor their patients' conditions and offer them a more comprehensive treatment plan. Take a diabetic patient, for example. In the past, they would have had to prick their finger just to see their glucose levels and then administer the proper amount of insulin themselves accordingly. But in the event of a glucose crash, they might be unresponsive or unable to do so. Nowadays, with the prevalence of insulin pumps, the pumps themselves can regulate the amount of glucose and administer the insulin accordingly. This information can even be sent to a third-party computer where both doctor and patient can view the records and make diet decisions. Another example of smart implants in action comes from the mouth. Dental implants are generally composed of a zirconia cap and a titanium screw that goes into the jawbone to hold the artificial tooth in place. The implant then slowly becomes anchored by the growth of the bone onto the screw. However, Healing and attachment of the implant can be easily compromised by previous infection or diseases such as osteoporosis, leading to eventual implant failure. As a result, researchers have worked on developing a way to help the healing process by having the implant release chemical signals to attract bone cells and increase the speed at which they grow, leading to more successful implants. By now, you should have some understanding of why smart implants are preferable to traditional implants. But in order to understand how they work, we need to know what they're made of. So for that, we've turned to another researcher for more insight. So what makes a material a biomaterial exactly?
A biomaterial is a non-viable material that is intended to interface with a biological or physiological system in order to evaluate, treat, augment, or replace any tissue, organ, or biological or physiological function.
Are there any other requirements for a biomaterial?
Yes, a biomaterial is defined by its cytotoxicity, biocompatibility, and healing capability. In other words, the biomaterial shouldn't kill healthy cells either through direct contact or by releasing harmful chemicals. It should interact with the body in a way that is appropriate for its function and also not cause chronic inflammation, and it should attract white blood cells to the wound or injury site to trigger healing if necessary. All bioimplants must also adhere to WHO, ASTM, and ISO standards.
So what you're saying is any material implanted in you that would be harmful would not be a biomaterial.
At the most, it would be considered a very poor one.
How do you account for all that?
It's pretty simple, really. We run a bunch of tests both by putting either the biomaterial itself or the chemicals it releases onto a petri plate of cells, and then we wait and see if and how many cells die after some time. We also need to make sure that cells nearby don't like the implant too much. In other words, we need to make sure that they, or the proteins they produce, stick to the material the right amount. We check this either by putting some cells on the material and then spinning a disc with the right amount of force, or by placing the coated biomaterial in a receptacle with water flowing at a certain rate. Oftentimes, we coat the biomaterial with a polymer called polyethylene glycol in order to cover the area where the proteins or cells could adhere. Some biomaterials also have to output chemicals to attract cells to the area to promote wound healing. To do this, we yet again place the biomaterial in a petri dish of cells and measure how much those cells travel over time. All of this testing takes a lot of time, but we need to do it if we want to be sure the material is safe to use. Once it's been proven that it isn't harmful, which is determined by various guidebooks based on the function of the biomaterial, it's ready for use.
Now let's see how these implants are able to help out our family. The grandfather is able to read a book and spend time with his family thanks to the use of a smart pacemaker. A pacemaker is another example of a smart bioimplant. There are two types of pacemaker programming. One, called the demand pacing, monitors the heart's rhythm. It will only send electrical pulses to the heart if the heart is beating too slow or if it misses a beat. The other kind, called a rate-responsive pacing, speeds up or slows down the heart depending on how active the person is. In order to do this, the pacemaker leads are in contact with myocardium heart tissue. Pacemakers can either be single or double lead. These electrode leads sense the potential difference between the electrochemical potential of the electrode and the solvated ions in the heart. The phase boundary that results, called the Helmholtz double layer, allows the pacemaker to record the heart's activity and make electric pulses accordingly. Many people need the regulatory protection of a pacemaker to survive. Because of this new technology, they never have to miss a beat. The father used to have terrible shoulder pain that prevented him from roughhousing with his kids. Because of the amazing technology in his smart shoulder implant, he is able to carry on one of his greatest passions. To understand how this implant helps, we need to take a closer look at the shoulder. The shoulder joint is a ball and socket joint, making it the most flexible joint in the body. It is held together by tissue called the capsule. The inner part of the capsule also produces fluid that serves to lubricate the joint, making it move smoothly. 4 muscles around the joint form the rotator cuff, which is responsible for controlling movement. Sometimes, when the joint is overused, the cartilage that cushions the 2 bones forming the joint wears away, which is called osteoarthritis. After this, the bones grind against each other and cause a great deal of pain. For severe cases, a replacement of the bones is needed, which is where our smart shoulder implant comes in. Classical shoulder implants normally do the job just fine, but if overuse continues, they too wear down eventually. New smart shoulder implants track the forces in the shoulder in order to see if any vibration is happening, which would signify that the artificial joint is wearing down. This information is relayed to an outside device so that the patient and doctor alike can keep an eye out for any problems and address them before they become critical. This implant has multiple components: the actual joint replacement, the circuitry for the sensor, communicator, and power source, and the outside device such as a smartphone that receives the information from the implant. The joint itself has two sections, a tough metal ball and a soft and smooth plastic cup. Generally, the cup or cushion is the section that contains the pressure and force sensors in it, which communicate with a smartphone app or computer using wireless radio frequency telemetry. This information is being used to alter post-operative procedures and to design better implants for all the loving fathers in the world. And finally, we have the child of the family, who has epilepsy, a brain disorder that results in sudden losses of consciousness and seizures. However, thanks to the White House Brain Initiative, which funds neuroscience research, she can live a life with minimal issues. In particular, she has a responsive neurostimulator which can detect unusual brain activity and stop seizures before they even begin. To understand how it works, first, you need to know how a seizure happens. The brain works by relaying signals via electrical impulses from neuron to neuron. A seizure occurs when the brain misfires, causing a sudden disorganized set of electrical impulses being sent. In other words, the brain is suddenly overloaded with many signals at once. The responsive neurostimulator can sense changes in the environment associated with the seizure and sends out electrical pulses to stabilize the brain, thus preventing the seizure. This particular implant displays two important characteristics of a smart bioimplant: sensing and adapting. Some responsive neurosensors are also programmed to relay information to the doctors so that they may attempt to identify the cause of the seizures. This sensor has many parts. Most importantly, it has two wires, or leads, that attach to the brain. These leads allow for electrical impulses to be both sensed and sent out. The body of the device contains the microprocessor that is responsible for analyzing the input and inducing the electrical charge sent through the leads. The device itself is battery-powered and has a Bluetooth component in order to send data to be analyzed. This new technology will allow many to lead better lives and will only keep improving as more research is done. Currently, research into smart bioimplants is booming, and many groups have formed to incentivize discoveries in the field. Some of these include DARPA's Electrical Prescriptions Program, which rewards companies for investing into research of electrical implant devices, and the Weizerbahn project from the European Union Commission, which is a collaborative effort to create an ultra-miniature and ultra-low-power radio frequency microsystem for bioimplants. Research is also being done to make batteryless smart bioimplants, which are powered through wireless signals sent out to the devices. Another interesting branch of smart bioimplants involves polypyrrole film, which allows for controlled drug release into the body based on an applied voltage. This film could be used to coat the smart bioimplants so that they release antibiotics or anti-inflammatory medicine after implantation, making them less likely to cause infection. Graham had some more thoughts on his favorite up-and-coming applications. Is there any research in bioimplants that you're particularly excited about?
Of course, in the science and engineering community, we're always interested in making things smaller. By making them smaller, we can make devices less disruptive to the body or the host. We can also get them to require less energy, and by using less material, they can be less expensive. There are huge advances coming in both micro and nanotechnology and moving all this technology to an even smaller and smaller scale.
Wow, that's amazing!
It really is.
The future lies in technology, especially those that can adapt and change to suit the body's needs. There are many demands placed on smart bioimplants, but our imaginations are limitless. As long as there are people out there striving to make the world a better place, there will be a continued development of life-saving technology. It may seem odd that a normal American family has so many smart bioimplants riddled through it, but because of these devices, this family is allowed to remain happy, healthy, and whole. Technology is beneficial and useful to all ages and sizes of people.